Can one be possessed by just reading a book about possessions or demonology? What about books dealing with curing this evil? Thank you. This is from Linda. Now, obviously, we talked about Amorth's book on the demonic. What about that?
No, you can't be possessed by reading a book on the demonic. There are three ways in which a person typically becomes possessed, but none of them is reading a book on the demonic, right? That's done by a person who is a spiritual person. Now, if you mean by a book on the demonic that you're reading a book on sorcery,
right,
then
that's
you're putting
different,
yourself
right,
into the okay. That's right. So if you are essentially playing around with the occult, absolutely you can put yourself in a position to be possessed. But generally, that's not what occurs. Normally, it's what's called an oppression or an obsession takes place. So, you don't go to a full-blown possession. They are far more rare than oppression. Oppression means that you're constantly kind of being harassed by the devil, right? And infestation means that your house may be haunted or by something demonic. But for all intents and purposes, a possession is a very rare thing. But yeah, fool around with the demonic, and you set yourself up certainly maybe for a haunting, that is to say, an infestation, or for an oppression, possibly a possession. But that's your choice. Number two, a second way of doing it, of course, is to go into some kind of a pact with an evil spirit. That is to, Dr. Faust, and of course, many people do this for some kind of gain, some kind of knowledge of the future, some ability to curse somebody, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, these kinds of pacts, I mean, again, that's your choice. Now, the third instance in which, a possession can and has occurred is through somebody, a third party, cursing somebody. And of course, a curse is a very difficult thing to understand because, of course, we sometimes think, well, doesn't the person who's cursed have to have something to say about this before a possession takes place? And what we find is that sometimes parents or not just parents, but sometimes uncles or aunts, right, and they, have cursed a particular child or a particular adolescent who are very, very vulnerable, to a spirit, coming into them, and they curse them for horrible reasons, generally, hatreds and jealousies and terrible, terrible things. But, beside that point, remember, the devil never takes possession of that child. The devil never can get the soul of that child.
Right.
I'm sorry, you could take possession of the body or the unconscious of the child, but not the soul of the child, the free will of the child. Now, in the case of Robbie Mannheim, the one I've been talking about, that was a basis for that Exorcist movie, but the diary, the full diary of the Jesuits, is there on the internet. But the main thing to remember about that is that Robbie, was put in that position by his aunt. She was taking him into the room to play, with the Ouija board, and of course to kind of look at the future, do these incantations as a kind of a fun thing. He's a young adolescent. He's vulnerable to the spirit. He appropriates the spirit. But of course, after the exorcism was over, he didn't remember a thing about it, and to this day doesn't remember a thing about it.
Right.
I mean, you read that, the story of it, and you're absolutely shocked. But he remembers absolutely nothing, showing you that it never made it into his soul
one thing I remember.
All.